author of this is David Hawley. He lives in Missouri.
Could you read the title again, please, for me?
A Second Serving of Salt. So, and the characters are Agnes, who is an older lady, and Ivor or Ivor, depending on where you're from, an older man.
Yeah.
And the setting is a garden. There are 2 seats and a small table. At curtain rise, Agnes is sitting in one of the seats, knitting. Ivor enters and approaches her.
The woman's felicitations for the afternoon, ma'am. I see here we have a space in the brace of in the brace of places that announces itself as unreserved. Though I must inquire whether the gentle lady who traces the afternoon with her frequent presence,
Fragrant. It's fragrant.
Fragrant.
fragrance,
A fragrant.
was a fragrant presence, designs to hold it for some absent party, or whether the salt-crusted person who appears in these trousers before her may begin the evening sojourn upon this silent but beckoning berth.
What?
What is that he said? To be sure, my robust old soul, no such designs have been made. The afternoon has found no occupant, and the 50 gallons of air that presently and solely occupy the fellow to my chair make for poor company. Silent, as you say, it rests. You are, as you hint, a man of no uncertain uniform, and it would not put me greatly out of humor for you to rest it here. In short, sir, sit.
Brevity shows itself as the distilled essence of true knowledge. I'm as obliged to you, ma'am, as a pilot on the approach to the hard harbor at Herskelion.
Good heavens, sir. Without a doubt, you're a seafaring cove. It's clear, none to let his compass needle lead him astray, I'm sure. Declare your manifest.
It's true. The minch, the sound of 3, and the
You're on your own, Bruce.
quarter reckon have lately passed through my copper bottom.
Your saline grin confirms it. Tales of the sea were once my delight, from the lips of Mr. Simonet, that were also once my delight. But many a tide has receded since the last entry in his log. Many a tide.
Leap and spring, I loved them all. I was wedded only to the Humboldt current, roaring 40s, and my foundation in the fast-dead rock. Cape Hatteras and the Sargasso Sea were flirtations, and though I entered their maidenly waters, they remained virgins still.
Aye, but steady as she goes, Captain, and announce yourself. None are to be anonymous here.
Surely such a senseless situation is insufferable. As insufferable, presenting I, Ivor, that presently occupies this shirt, this seat in your attention. Recently retired, currently arrived, and is seeking a fresh channel.
Heave to, Ivor. There's many a man steered a vessel, but none that commanded your present interlocutor, save Captain Simonet, keen of eye, wise of judgment, and bandy of light.
But there's the true salt. Use of a sextant and anger's not a trivial undertaking. And a solid foundation on an eccentric dock's the thing to be had. Well, spread feet will help.
Could you change the subject on me, sir? Hold your course.
Steady as she goes, ma'am. Steady as she goes.
Then state your case plainly or slip your moorings.
The straight approach, excellent. In the matter of a companionway, that of my own vessel has been without a companion these several seasons, and the sole sailor sailing singly seeks solace.
Thumper, fucking crash.
Ha! Then cease the sibilance and buy a parrot.
I don't want a bird, ma'am, as a mate.
He said, I want to. Well, there is a case plainly stated.
There's none that can state a case plainer than those with a plain case to state. And my case is plainer to state than most. Will you sign up for crew?
Your approach may be straight, sir, but your thinking is fog-bound. The reasons are no better defined than the edge of the Sargasso Sea. You, sir, are adrift.
Nay, my worthy Agnes. The course was plotted long back, and though I find myself beating against your headwind, I'm blowing it if I luff in the face of the gale. Send the rollers, send the foam, hit me with a haddock, and flay me with a flying fish if I don't stand by the binnacle and keep the bearing.
Your fortitude does you credit, Captain Ivor, though to add me to your manifest as your worthy Agnes is presumptuous. I've said I'll not be subject to any master's command, though Neptune himself furnishes him with particulars of introduction.
Command? Do you suppose you're the ambition of a waterspout and the brain of a jellyfish? These might be foreign waters to my salty soul, but this admiral's not a stranger to reason.
Admiral, is it now? Self-promotion first nature to you, I see, and second nature's a bad second.
Oh, pipe down and observe the signal. It was you who hailed me, Captain.
Observe.
Is there no end to the interference on this channel?
Send your message then. The flagship as head of the fleet, but beware of squalls.
Admiral, as I said, and so I am, late of the fleet and early of retirement, dry in a dock, and benched in the sandbank of days. Too late to forget blue water and too late to circle the tropics alone, but circle them I must.
Must? What's the compulsion?
Why must the blue light cast a yellow shadow? It's the nature of things.
That will be in dispute.
There is a ring of blue water around the earth, and I have the craft to trace that line. Not a straight circle, you understand. There's no circle about that earth that does not meet land.
I'm familiar. What's your craft?
The craftiest craft is crafted. It's wood, cut from a wooden tree and fashioned into a shape of beauty. 48 feet from a keel laid in Belfast, and the planking laid in double layers.
Belfast, birthplace of RMS Titanic, no less.
Which left the yard perfect, and fated, though ill-fated. It's the sisters, better steered, went to the breakers decades later, and no more than a heavy hangover their burden. The rock at the iceberg beckons for any helmsman who does not mind his observations.
Well, then proceed.
I have a mind to sail in circles, as I said, but what's a sole sailor to do in the sea singly? Who's to check the chart? Who's to correct the course? Who's to...
I think I've made the case clear.
No,
I'm sorry.
I think I made the case clear. Further, Craig would be Blarney.
You're an Irishman?
Born and emigrated, like they do. Admiral Ivor McNulty, late.
Well, here's a rum soul. Name sails from Swansea and runs aground in Dublin. Explain yourself, Admiral.
And what would be simpler? McNulty is the father, wandering about from his native Inniskillen, set up shop in the Anglesey and was held at anchor by a beauty from the Rhondda. This here's Ivor's as close to the center of the Irish Sea as the Isle of Man. And the gold of that island's the Kellys, Mrs. Simonite, Agnes Kelly, that was.
You astound me with your statement.
There's more to my name. At the Chandler's High School in Douglas, I went by Freddie. Ivor Frederick Oswald Sean McNulty. As easy a name to say as if you had barnacles on your teeth. And now you know me, I think.
Freddie McNulty from across the seas and landed in my port. What's the score? 5 decades?
52 by dead reckoning, and it's true I reckoned you dead. News travels slow, and the sad demise of sailor Simonite, the spouse, and your own escape in the rocks of the Skeleton Coast reached me around the last equinox. Agnes Kelly from Douglas, Isle of Man. Agnes Kelly with eyes that draw me like a whirlpool. Agnes that even a kittiwake flew down to admire. Agnes that set my compass needle spinning. Agnes that took up with Barney Simonite and set me running away to sea. Agnes, wet and rescued. Agnes, the widow.
You're supposed to dance.
Heave to, sir, this is too much. Would you breach my waterproofing? Freddie McNulty, the boy with a telescope eye and the sea legs that kicked the sand on Douglas Promenade. Freddie McNulty, who rented a deck chair and dismembered a pint of Winkles on my behalf.
For another penny, I could have courted love with whelks. But pennies were not as plentiful in those days, so I plied my darling with the smaller shellfish.
You remembered that day?
Who's to forget a lovely lady and a vinegary mollusk? Some entries in the log of life are written in indelible ink.
So steady, so clear, of course. It's enough to make a mermaid weep. That afternoon tide rises in me still, from time to time, and the ebb is hard to bear. But hold steady. This you must observe.
She fishes in her knitting bag and produces a small seashell.
Stingrays and lampreys. That's a Douglas Promenade Winkle, or I'm a lumpsucker.
A treasure of 5 decades, my treasure, to remind me of my treasured youth from my treasured youth.
Youth no more, but my treasure again. My treasure again, found and claimed. Will you allow me to carry you away, my own pearl of the sea?
Set your course, Admiral, and weigh your anchor.
She stands.
Mrs. Mate is ready for her second serving of salt. Her own old salt.
And they kiss.
End of that.
God bless you both.
That was a tough one, yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. There were a lot of unfamiliar words. And, yeah, and some of the,
Oh, but I've been to the Isle of Man and I
Yeah.
had it comes in a paper and there are little shells and you
yeah,
have,
right.
and you have a little toothpick and it's delicious.
I think that's,
Yes,
Okay, so, what do we want to tell David about the
I
play?
think it would rehearse.
Okay, obviously, it's a play that's going to need a lot of rehearsal, because you're gonna really, you gotta know the lines. There's a lot of wit in there. There's a lot-
Yes.
I love the alliteration, there's a lot of great stuff going on in there. It's difficult to understand, being a landlubber that I am. And, and I think even some of the sea people around here would not, have gotten everything. Again, it's something that you really have to learn to
I
be
think,
able to bring it across.
some of those lines that I said
You were terrific.
were really hard to, first of all, it's on a typewriter thing rather than on a computer.
Oh.
So wasn't all that easy to read. It's not standing out. But as I was reading it, I was marveling at the symmetry of the words, if you will, and
Yeah.
I thought it was great, and I said the same thing. I just said to Nancy, requires a lot of rehearsal to do this.
Yeah, what
But
I
I
was,
mean,
what I was
really, you
hearing
know,
was great, the wit, what I did understand, the wit was terrific.
Yeah, the thing was, you're cold reading it,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
it's so hard.
Obviously.
And there were words that definitely the pronunciation was something you needed a little guidance on. And also there were geographical and nautical references that not everybody would know. So it would take a very careful preparation, as
Yeah.
everybody's saying, but it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
good.
it was.
I would love to see it after rehearsal.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Anybody else have anything to say?
Well, who said Shakespeare? I mean, if you get somebody reading, just a reading of Shakespeare, it's like
It would be
nothing.
the same
right.
thing.
When it's acted out, you go, ah.
Right, when it's understood, when the words are understood as they're
Yeah.
said. And at first I thought this was in verse.
With a certain.
Yes,
And
it
then
just
the
language
characters
was so
presented in certain
flowery at
cadence,
the
Yeah.
beginning.
You
Yeah.
know,
In verse at
it needs a
first.
certain
Yeah.
cadence to be appreciated.
You need barnacles on your teeth to be able to.
Yeah, it was a really funny, it was some great stuff.
It was, there was some very good stuff, and we all got it sort of 2 beats after some of those lines.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like, wait a second,
Right.
what did you just say?
Well, the amazing thing is that she understood everything he said.
She had the script.
Well, this is her second helping us all.
And she made witty responses
Yes.
to these long, flowery alliterations.
Well, she did some flowery things herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Agnes said breach my waterproofing, I said.
Last thing.
Yeah, I was getting ready to jump up there.
You think that would go in a library?
Oh, I don't know, it's nautical.
Oh, yeah.
She was crying.
It's nautical, but not naughty.
Had something-
Oh, waterproofing, yes.
It had something to do with the tears and the.
Oh, yeah,
It's not the words that were dirty, it's your minds.
right.
I didn't say that.
Okay. Oh. All right, so